This is now.
Okay, do you want to just
No.
intro?
Go ahead. Go ahead. That's good.
So what they do is this. They charge you money, and they charge you a lot of money. Then they put you in a facility of, well, I mean, it's programming ultimately, but they don't give you any information about what you're actually learning or how to learn it. So there's an assumption that you just need to learn the things, and they're not even important really, you know? So the way that they do it, it's backwards. It's like if I already knew all this, I wouldn't be in school. I wouldn't be doing this program. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing here if I knew this already. But it's not logical to them that you're logical. I had the same thing happen in university. Well, I almost got kicked out actually, because the second that you go outside of their box and then you actually challenge them in the way that they structure everything, because I remember when I was in classical studies, art, archaeology, anthropology, and I remember asking them all, do you know that the timeline's real? Just that little question. Why am I basing the way that I'm studying this all on this timeline that you think is real? Why am I assuming that this is real because you tell me it's real? Do you even know if it's real, or do you know how to not know if it's real?
And how did they respond to that?
They didn't like it, and they couldn't respond. They couldn't say unequivocally. I said, can you unequivocally tell me that this timeline is real? Yes, no. You're in a court of law right now. You're in my law. Yes, no. Don't give me a big explanation that gets me round and round and round we go.
Uh-huh.
I want a yes or a no. Can you tell me if this timeline's real? Not one single professor could do that.
Which
Not even the dean.
which timeline were you referring to exactly? Do you
Any
remember?
of it, like the whole timeline history that they give us, like, AD, BC, 100 AD, 33, the whole history as we know it, medieval ages, the age of enlightenment, um, all of it. The lapse where, there was Australopithecus afarensis and Africanus and the what do you call it? The Neanderthal, the Cro-Magnon, and then there's like a little bit of an unknown. One just sort of just appears and the other one disappears, but nobody yet can explain that. So none of them could say, no, yeah, God, you have a point. You might be right. We really can't say yes to your question, and maybe we need to rethink it. So then I did a paper, and I did a lot of research into it where, there were these skulls that were found, one in particular, which was 450,000 years old. It was a Homo sapien sapien, which is what we are. Well, not
Yes.
really, but
Somewhat.
anyway. So I did this paper, and almost got kicked out of university for it because it basically did away with their whole premise of their entire historical timeline and the foundation of everything that they teach. It just, that one paper did away with it all.
Was
But
it
they
logical?
couldn't
Like, it was a
accept it.
logical presentation that you
It was
presented?
logical. It had evidence. Um, they didn't, to admit it or to grade it or to accept the paper would be for them to say that they are wrong, and the basis of university and all of the things that they teach and even how they get grants to study what they study would just be done away with. So they just froze it, and they froze that course, that particular course, and basically kept it frozen to this day.
Because of your
because
paper?
because in the law, right, they can't acknowledge it truly. They can't grade it because, as per the law, they would have to actually, that means if they graded it and accepted it, they would have to accept other things that it says. So if it just gets frozen, it's in a frozen state, then they can just pretend like it never existed.
So your presentation of this paper stopped an entire class from happening?
Oh yeah, basically, I almost got kicked out of university. The paper circulated everywhere.
How did you?
I found out that it circulated. It was circulating in New York, in California. It would just spread like wildfire.
Is this available to us? Can we read this?
Well, this is a long time ago. I mean, and the funny thing is, it's out there somewhere. I'm sure a lot of people have it. But the funny thing is that at the time when I wrote it and all of this was happening, my place got broken into because they were trying to access all of the notes and everything that I had to compile but nobody ever knew who broke in.
Uh-huh.
It was the strangest thing, but it was crazy. And this is an education center. Well, I have to laugh at the word education, but where you're not really allowed to think.
How did you end up going back into this education system, being that you kind of already know what it is? Like, what's your rationale behind that?
Well, I'm doing something I never thought I would be doing. First of all, like, I'm studying something that I never even thought my brain would ever even. I had no desire to even go there, but at the same time, it's kind of neat because it's opening up a hemisphere that I never use in my brain.
Right.
And it's forcing me to think differently about things that I never even knew were there, which means other things are opening up in that hemisphere that would normally never open up. And there's something about that. Like I've always said, push yourself in extremes that you never think to do. Because if you just stick to your right brain or your left brain, whichever brain you're comfortable with, you'll never open up the two of them together so that they can do what they're meant to do in balance. Like you don't use that part of your brain. That brain essentially cuts off other parts of you. So being in this in particular that I'm doing is going to help me personally in business to manage my own thing, and I don't have to depend on other people, because that sucks. Really sucks depending on anyone, especially when you don't know them, or they tell you, oh yeah, I'm really good at doing this in business or whatever, and then you get screwed. And that happens a lot. So it happens a lot when you're not in business. It just happens a lot.
That's what the realm is composed of.
I know. So doesn't it make more sense that the more that you can do on your own, the better?
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from as well with the school thing, because that would have had to have been difficult to even make that decision to go back to this
it's
place.
Like this is not anything. I mean, it's kind of also an experiment in what you can push. How far can you push the envelope, right? Because this is all a game.
Mm-hmm.
This is all an illusion. It's a game. It really is about utilizing our creative ability and even getting to know what that is, right?
Yeah.
And also opening up parts of you that, I mean, I would never open those parts. If I had a choice and it was comfortable, I'd be like, get out. No way.
Right.
But then I like it. I like it because I'm doing things I never thought I could do. I'm doing things that I really thought were impossible. Now I'm starting to think, gee, if I could do it this well, and it's like the impossible part of me, anything's possible.
Right. You're facing something that, just like myself, if I were to go back to university, it would be such a challenge just to even make that mental jump in the first place, because I have so much internal biases against the system, so yeah. I understand what you're talking about. It's sort of a brave decision. It's like jumping off a cliff in that sense, because it goes against your belief structure.
Totally.
It completely goes against just like you're like, how do I learn? It's like, no, you go to Google and search some. That's literally how you learn. You don't ever go to school, like, ever. That's how you acquire loans and things like that.
Right, but then you're learning. You're just learning things that you never ever.
I know what you're saying though. Yeah, it's good.
Which is cool, because it is opening other things up. It's not just, when I say opening other parts up, I'm not just referring to the parts that or in school, like if you've never done calculus or if you've never done, sage accounting or any of that, you suddenly can do it and you find out that you can do it really well. But it actually is opening up the nervous system attached to that part of how your brain works, which is attached to that part of the spirit, which is attached to all these other realms. It really is. That's kind of how it works.
It's
That
interesting.
you normally wouldn't even. It's just not in your sphere, right? Normally, if you had a choice,
Right.
you'd stay in your comfort zone. Like, I like painting, so I'm just gonna paint. But then somebody says, you know what? We're gonna put you in a room and you're gonna learn how to become a doctor. you know, it's like that. And then you find out, hey, I can do that really well, and I can paint too, and I can do this, and I can do that. Wow, I can do
Yeah.
all this stuff.
What I find personally is whenever I actually have the gumption to do something that was scary or just seemed outside the realm of possibility, it's you're not ever losing the other things that you walked in the door with. Like, you come out with this new thing and everything else is still there, and you can
Right.
tinker with that later if you want, but it's your mind always says like, no, you can't ever do that because of X, Y, and Z. And once you actually do it, you have the freedom, you know.
Do you know something? The elite and the elite families, that quote sort of rule the world in their little echelon. They know all of this. So they're masters of commerce. They're masters at banking. They're masters at all of this stuff that structures society. Because if they weren't, they wouldn't be able to get away with what they're doing so well.
Yeah.
So does that mean that they're natural at it? Probably in their bloodline they've had to learn it because that was mandatory. That was part of their grooming and their training way back when, at the beginning, when they were appointed, or they appointed themselves with this. And they couldn't do it unless they had it. They had to have these tools. So
Right.
what difference is it for us if we want to take back what's ours? We need to learn all this stuff.
Yeah, I've never found in myself. I've never found an actual opposition aside from my own inner workings. You know, it's never been something else. Even if somebody else is coming up and making me feel a certain way, it's still my inner reaction that's stopping me from taking action. Yes.
Totally. But if you're relegated to having to use a financial system and pay rent or a mortgage and live in such a way that isn't your design, it's somebody else's design, but you're inserted in it, well, maybe I'm thinking of going at it from the inside out. Go inside the cube and come out. So you can access the outward parts all over them.
You're infiltrating.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, I just feel like if we can in our own inner selves release our self blockages, there isn't a limit to what you can do.
Yeah.
There just isn't. That's what being a creator means. It means that you're
Right.
you're not self impeding on every single level, and you're actually able to move a little bit. Because we're good at that. I'm good at like stagnating and just staying in this just very. I'm like, okay, the universe isn't exploding, so everything's good right now. Like, I want to stay here, but I feel like we still need to move outside of that.
Totally. Absolutely, and I agree. I agree completely. But how do we learn unless we put ourselves in positions to learn?
Yeah,
That's not. I mean, this whole journey. Even you remember when you were a kid, right? And you're a kid and you're being taken care of. Well, I mean, some aren't really being taken care of, but let's just say, for lack of a better way of putting it, there's a roof over your head. There is some kind of food coming in. Where you get to eat.
We had a decent childhood. We had a good childhood.
So you're having these provisions for you as you are developing and encountering this world, in your little body, your brand new little body in this little cycle. But at some point, you need to be able to do it on your own. Though, ironically, no institute will ever teach you anything you need.
I know.
Okay?
I know that's why it's so ironic. It's just hilarious. But at the same time, still held within that construct is what you're doing, which is a sort of a way to glean some benefit from it. It's ironic that you can do either. Really, like it still is an inner mind state. Like I could go back to school and get benefit from it if I actually applied myself correctly.
Sure, everything's the inner mind. Everything's the
Yeah.
inner outer.
It's always
Everything's
how much are you willing to just really do something different? Like how much are you willing to go outside of your comfort zone? It's as cliche as that is. It's still true.
Yeah, and maybe the thing is, we have to do the thing we're not comfortable with ultimately, because what nags a person throughout their lives is always the thing that they don't want to do. It's always that.
Yeah.
And everybody always knows what that is.
Right.
You can try and fool yourself, but you always know.
No, it's a giant hide and seek game.
Yeah.
We know what it
So
is.
it is like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like play denial and pretend not to really know what I need to do all along. You know.
Yeah.
So you might as well get it over and done with and just do it, because if you do it, you're going to emancipate yourself from it. You're going to surprise yourself. You just will, because you're going to dig deep down, and you're going to pull out things you never knew you had. Like, you're going to think it's impossible, but it isn't. That's
it's hard.
kind of thing.
It's hard,
I
but
know.
it's hard, but like I feel like what we're doing, not just you and I, but in general, the more awake community is what we're actually doing is we're just pulling everything out and not like being scared of this or that piece. Like we're just throwing all the shit out there, like we should have been doing from the beginning. Like we should have been like, what is the fuck is going on over here? Like what are we doing here? You know?
Totally. Yeah. So why didn't we start way back then?
I don't know.
And
I
not
feel
only
like
that, but
the
way back then, if you remember, we didn't, there is a certain weird unlocking that's happening, okay? That you literally were blinded from seeing the thing that's right in front of you. Like, blinded. Like you're a blind and deaf person. It just isn't there. And then one day you wake up and it's right there.
yeah.
So,
But it's
whoa.
it's difficult to discern. Like we are very nuanced, and the things come in such complexity. It's difficult to discern, even if okay, now this thing is taking shape in front of me, and then we still have the fear, like the little fear, like oh, okay, back away a little bit, like that kind of thing is still going on. So like, how it actually comes out is not too clear either. But we start to become aware of it very very slowly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you have your genetic nightmare memories as well that you have, and you're reacting to subliminally and subconsciously, but you don't even know where that's coming from. I remember when I was little, I used to have to fly back and forth, from Canada to Spain a lot, because, my parents were always putting me on a plane, like, without them. It's like,
As a child,
go.
Like-
She can go over there. And I remember I was afraid of, sharks. But I don't know why I was afraid of sharks. I never saw a shark before, in this life. Like,
Yeah.
I was too little. But I was afraid of sharks. Like, I was actually felt that the plane would crash. And I really did feel like, I would be and a plane did actually crash that I was in later on. But then that was my fear because I was able to perceive it before it happened.
Wow,
but
you
I
actually-
didn't know the timing.
okay. What kind of a plane was it? Was it like a
It was a small plane. I took a plane from Ontario to Montreal to Quebec, and the engine blew up. So, but when I was little, see, I had a terror of planes because I knew that would happen at some point, but I didn't know the timing or anything. And then I put the shark in there, and then I'm like, well, we're flying over a big ocean, lots of big sharks. In my mind, I'm thinking Leviathan, right? Like, Leviathan's swimming in there, and
Yeah.
she's a big ass shark. Well, not technically, she's a monster, but freaking out. So I remember I would take like a knife with me on the plane when I was a little girl. Like I'm gonna fight the shark, right?
Yeah, you're prepared. Yeah.
I'm gonna face his head on.
Right.
Because
Punch him in the nose. That's what I heard. You punch him in the nose.
the only other option, I'm 5 years old, I'm 6 and 7 and 8, right? And I've got this little knife, my little like baggie. But the only other option was never to fly again, right? Because then I wouldn't have to worry about the sharks.
Yeah.
But you know what I said? And this is what I told myself when I was really little. I'm like, screw it. Get on the plane.
Yeah.
Just get on that plane. Just keep getting on the planes. And don't worry about it. It's the same thing when finally the plane did crash. That was, at that point, get on a plane or you'll never get on a plane again.
Yeah.
So and out of the plane, there was quite a few of us on that plane. It wasn't a jumbo, but it was quite a few. I think there was maybe like 40 people.
Okay, so it was like a passenger plane. It wasn't a little Cessna.
No. It was like it was a mediocre size one.
Okay.
But nobody wanted to get back on a plane after it happened. We did land. There was damage to the plane, obviously. Because we crash landed, but so upon crash landing and everybody's literally on the ground, like kissing the ground, right? Me included.
Yeah.
So there was this man and he was kind of like this, and I was like freaking out going, I may possibly never get on another plane again, but it's really difficult when you have family across the sea because you're always going to be on a plane. So I looked at the guy and he looked at me and I'm like, we got to get back on the plane because they sent another plane, but nobody would go on it. But it was just really ridiculous that they sent another plane to pick us up in this like poor farmer's field that we landed in, because who's going to go back on a plane really out of everybody? Maybe one or two people. Like that guy and I were the ones that chose to, because we just looked at each other and went, I don't want to be a victim and I don't want to be limiting myself to thinking I'll never be on a plane again because of fear. And see, this is what we come up against all the time in life, in these experiences, like the experience of having a manifested body. Yeah. We're always up against that one thing we're really afraid of. Yeah. And a lot of people lose a lot of time just sitting idly, kind of trying to not do the very thing that they're afraid to do. But ultimately, if you just embrace it, then it is a freedom. You do emancipate yourself. Yeah. Because when that man and I got back on that plane, yeah, we grabbed a lot of vodka, but we got back on the plane, and then we were like, whoa, this was huge. We didn't even second guess it. We just knew. We were like, damn it, I'm not gonna live my life in fear of flying. That shit. Get back on that plane. Right. So it was just him and I in the plane. Everybody else had to wait in that poor farmer's house.
They were all too scared, except for you two?
They were mortified. I'm pretty sure none of them would ever get back on a plane again. So they waited for the bus, which meant, they waited like 10 hours or something.
Yeah. Wow. I wonder how many of them still don't ever fly because of that incident.
I've wondered too, but it was, oh my God, it was crazy. And I was sitting in the window seat. I won't sit on a window seat anymore, by the way. That I don't do. But I was sitting in the window seat that I could see the wing right there. And so when the wing, it just, all I could see was fire. It was fire. I'm looking at the wing and it's just fire. So I was like, that does not look right. That does not look right.
Something's wrong here. So I could tell something's wrong. Oh, the plane's on fire.
And the other engine was shorting out.
So both sides were messing up?
They have two engines because they have to, right? Just in case one. So one's on fire. We're like, oh my God, at least we have the other one. The other one's shorting out. And the lights through the plane are shorting out, like off and on, like so we're like dipping and going, and then we would just, it'd start back on again, and we would just coast a little bit, and then we'd dip again, and then we were going down. And
did the pilot give any warning or any explanation or whatsoever, or like comforting words or something?
You know what? I think we were all in such shock.
Uh-huh.
The woman in front of me that was sitting in front of me, my arm was through the seat and she was grabbing it for dear life, and it was all like black and purple. And I just remember between the shock of what was happening and just, But I had a bad feeling before flying on that flight. I was like, I shouldn't be on this plane. But then felt like I had to be on the plane to like do whatever it was I needed to do on there. So I had to go, even though I had that premonition. But between this shock and this woman's old lady who grabbed my arm like it was just, she was not, it was like steel fingers. So I was jammed, locked, and in so much pain from what she was like, how like she was grabbing on. It was just all black and purple. It was surreal. So whatever the pilot said, I don't even remember exactly what he said because I don't think it mattered. You know,
Yeah.
You're all just, yeah. It's surreal, strange feeling.
Did you have the feeling that that might be the end for you, or was it you kind of have an inkling that it was gonna end up all right?
Well, by that time, I mean, I'd already died, several times in my life. I'd already almost died many times. So it was another one,
It kind of felt familiar though a little bit, like it wasn't just this it was freak
just
out
another
session.
super extreme, like crazy, wow, nobody's gonna believe this again.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many surreal moments. It's like that one time, where I was driving behind this huge truck that was transporting massive tree trunks, major massive, not the kind you see now, which are smaller, and this was so big. But the chain started. I was the first car right behind this truck, and I watched the one chain break off, and everything I was watching was in slow motion because once one breaks off, it's like this incredible force that just snaps all the other,
like strands of hair or something, just tick.
Yeah, totally. It was like, whoa, what is going on? And I could see the trunks. I could see them just like coming up, and I'm looking at them, but it's all super slow motion. And I was driving a little convertible Sprint, which is like a pop can, right? Like, I mean, it doesn't take much to flatten one of those,
right?
And I'm watching them like coming down on the road as I'm driving, and for some miraculous reason, none of them hit me.
They just went to the
sides? They all like right over me, like hitting the ground and coming and hitting the ground and coming, and it was just like I was in this bubble. Wow. And then I was on the side of the road, and I don't even remember getting there. And it was just this massive destruction.
Did they crash with anybody else, or did anybody else get injured?
There was there was injuries because it was a 401, okay. Which is like a super busy, massive highway in Ontario. Because I was on my way to Toronto.
Wait, you feel like somebody was interrupting your business, maybe?
Yeah. Absolutely, because I should have been crushed. But not only was I not crushed, and I just like saw them coming over, and they were doing everything but coming on my car, and then I was at the side of the road, like stopped. So, it's another one of these. Okay, how is that? What just happened?
Yeah, I feel like I haven't had a ton of experiences like that to where like the physical world is trying to do something around me, but every time I have something that with me it's always internal, like energetic things are bothering me or whatever, and I have these memories that you're talking about, like I don't even know how to our conscious self is so limited as far as what we remember, like, but I know 1,000 other things, and these are internal defense mechanisms that come in when this inner state, or if somebody's doing an energetic attack or something, and like it happens automatically. I already know how to defend myself. And the lack of fear is, as far as beings harvesting energy, that is the main way to just, like, welcome it. Like, okay, so you're gonna kill me or whatever. Like, you're gonna do this. Yeah, bring it on. Like, that is actually a prime defense mechanism in the realm, and probably outside of it as well.
Yeah, although we don't agree to those terms and conditions ever because you're the law. But yeah,
Right, right. In, in so much
it
as
is that.
we forgot everything, in so much as we forgot everything, like it's a good defense mechanism to just be like, I am courageous and curious. If the body gets killed, then fine. Like, just be.
Yeah.
Don't say like I want to die, like not like that, but just
No.
you're being brave.
Well, and I mean, what you're saying also is those are tangible experiences. When you feel an energy coming and attacking you, it's just as tangible as a physical attack because it is.
It's more so for me. It's much more so.
It's
the inner.
yeah, it's like there. It's like a matter. It
Right.
it hits you. It can envelop you. It is like suddenly,
Yeah.
you've got stuff all around you.
And it's
And
also
it's
intelligent. Like, these energies can be very intelligent and sort of glomming onto your conscious linear experience to make it horrifying, or to make it. You could even make it positive or whatever, depending on who's doing what. But uh, it's so different from just the natural residing in your space. Like, it's so different, absolutely different.
yes. Well, have you ever had? I mean, I remember when I was young, I used to be attacked a lot. But I remember that they wanted me to be afraid,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of these beings who, like, they're demonic beings, and they look demonic and they look really scary. But when you're a kid, they want you to actually put that personification into your mind so that you let them in instead of looking at them in an indifference or maybe in a way that, well, you can't hurt me.
Yeah.
You know?
Somebody said,
You
like,
look
draw
ugly.
cartoon faces on them, like make them look
Right,
funny.
like you look really ugly, and that's not my problem.
Right.
You can't hurt me.
Right. Right. It
But if you
requires your fear. It requires you
yes,
aiding and abetting whatever it is that they're trying to do.
it's an agreement, right?
Yeah.
If you and even if I remember when I was really little, they would surround my bed, and I was like, really little, like 4, 5 years old, and it happened a few times, even when I was 7, 8. But they would put pins through me, so that like they would just put lots and lots of pins, and I'd be bleeding and all these, like, my whole body, because they would be like torturing me
This
like
was
that.
physically, or you felt like
Physically. Oh no,
really?
physically I
Wow.
would be bleeding. Yeah.
So you'd wake
I
up
used to
bleeding?
I was never asleep. I was just pure awake. Like, I would
Wow.
be lying in bed before I was even asleep, and they would come and surround my bed, and then they would be like laughing, and then they'd be sticking these pins in, and then I'd
Wow.
start bleeding, and my parents were always freaked out because I'd have or I'd have claw marks, and like I'd just be telling them, you know, I would cry, I would see them, I would start being afraid, and that would give them the end, right? Because I accepted, and that's what they could do.
Right. Right.
It wasn't until I had to unlearn that it stopped.
Yeah. That's
You know,
why. That's
thinking
why
things are a given.
it's a. People don't understand, like, the people that are so blocked from memories of what can be. They don't remember. Like, they don't remember how this thing actually can be, and it can be bad. It can be very bad, but it can also be. It's both sides. Like, it can also be heaven at the same time. It's depending on how you're applying yourself.
Exactly. Have you ever felt an Arcon?
I don't know that I've felt one, but when these sort of attacks have come out of the blue and I can't relate it to something outside, then I have mentally attributed it to that, like the loosh farming type stuff. I feel like
Right.
when it's not directly connected to, like, I didn't smack my hand on the cup, or I didn't, like, something didn't come hit me and I just feel like absolute shit or terror or whatever for no reason.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember I had this experience. And I mean, I say Arcon because that's the only word that I can think of, because that's the word that we have for something that big
Somebody
and
called
that.
them ankle biters. I
And
kept
yeah,
I kept
yeah.
that I kept
But
that word for defense later on.
well, there was this one experience which was really strange, and it was like a battle. So I remember this creature, and it came, and it was about the size of, it was bigger than the size of the neighborhood that I lived in. It was like huge.
Wow.
And the neighborhood I lived in was big, and but it was bigger, and I could feel its size, and I could feel its strength, and it came in, and it was like it went through osmosis. So it went through me like it was going through osmosis,
Mm-hmm.
like going through a membrane, penetrating it, and then sort of it was in, right?
Yeah.
And then it was trying, and I remember it was trying to be in my mind, to figure out my mind. And I could feel it trying to figure it out, to try and see what it could derive from how my mind works or whatever, right? This is basically, what is it that we can't access that makes you kind of a mystery? Because this is what they do with us. They try and hack us.
Right.
And it was really, I mean, I wasn't asleep, but I was paralyzed. And it took about 4.5 hours during the night of this battle,
Wow.
because this thing had penetrated through my membrane and went like osmosis, trying to absorb and extract. And I remember, because you initially want to fight it the way that you fight. This is like your instinct
Right.
is what comes out first, right? Your reflex is what comes out first. But then that doesn't work. That doesn't work with this stuff. So I was like, God, like I can't use any of this stuff. So then I was like, oh my God, how does your mind work?
So you flip the
So
tables.
I flipped the tables,
uh,
and I invaded it. And I went right deep, and I started extracting its terror of itself.
mm-hmm.
It freaked it out,
Wow.
completely freaked it out, and it went running, like the thing scurried.
That's funny. That's good. Yeah. I mean, did you feel like you gained something from that experience from like touching that thing's mind?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
totally. Because when I went in, I went deep into the core of its void, and its terror of its own void. Its terror of it's almost like see, when it lives through us, then it can convince itself that it's not self-consuming, and it's not eating itself into its own oblivion.
Yeah. You're talking about the parasite, basically. This
Right.
mind virus. Yeah.
And then when you extract that fear and you project it, like with everything you have back in it, to force it to feel it with everything it has, because it's a very psychic creature,
Mm-hmm.
it can't handle it. It just freaks right out. So this thing was like freaking out. It was freaking out. So it extracted itself, and I could just feel the extraction. I could feel it completely.
Wow.
And it scurried away, yeah.
Yeah.
Never had anything after that with it.
It's the mind virus thing is has been a difficult one. I don't think in this particular timeline it's still as prevalent as it was, but it's in all literature. It's in all of our histories. Not blatantly out there, but it's there. Like we know there's something there.
But wouldn't it be a part of us? I mean, can we I mean, we experience everything we experience because it has to be a part of us in one way or another.
I mean, you could say it's the shadow self. You could say it's the, it's the, or the inverse universe. The other side, the
Yeah.
upside down. It's all connected. Like in this duality realm, everything is just opposites. So it's like, okay, I have this really scared part that doesn't want to look at the void. Well, I know in myself there's a scared part that doesn't want to look at the void. Like I know what that
Yes.
void is. It's the obliteration of your personality. I know what it is, and I don't like it. So like maybe acknowledging
Well,
that personhood in the first place is made possible by that emptiness that's on the other side. It makes more sense,
yeah.
and also it doesn't affect you as much. It's not like, oh my god, that thing's trying to get me. It's like, no, that's the other half, and it is what it is. It's there for a purpose.
Yeah, I don't think we can experience anything that isn't in some way, shape, or form something that is of us or of our creation in some way
Yeah,
or another, even if it's through rejection,
that's just what
right?
you can do mentally. You can
Right.
reject any piece of the creation that you wish,
Yeah,
and then all of a
exactly.
sudden you're in the judgmental realm.
But what is a personality? Really? What is a personality?
I don't know. That's a difficult question. Also, when you're on somewhere on
Yeah.
this range of enlightenment or whatever, coming in and out of it, then at some point it becomes like, okay, I can be person and not person at the same time, and then where does that thing shake out to be? You know, it's very
Because
complicated.
I mean, when I think of concepts like personality, uh, well, first of all, I just feel like it's an alien, foreign thing. Like I'm not even sure.
Right.
I attribute it to the archetypes of creation that we've created that
Well, they
have
got
to do
corrupted so
the way
easily.
it's like,
They got
but
corrupted so
it's like,
easily. It became the businesses. Now corporations are
right,
persons. Like it's like
right. But
what
but ultimately, I don't know.
I
Water
think it's
doesn't, does
intelligent
water have a
organization.
personality?
It's intelligent organization of the matter principle. Really, that's what your
Right.
body is. And
But okay, does water have a personality?
I
Does
feel
air have a
I feel
personality?
like you can only kind of know your own personality, but in your memory, you've probably inhabited many different objects or many different types of bodies or whatever. But in the current one, you only remember this. But you can imagine like porting yourself into water. Like you can imagine having this feel of just flow, and it doesn't mean that you need to be in it and in your body at the same time.
I mean, ultimately, do we even have a personality really in what we really are? Huh?
No,
I don't think
no.
so.
There's nothing. Ultimately, there isn't anything at all. There's like the that's what all the sages are ever talking about. Like, what is life? What is this thing? And
Well,
the
I think therefore I am.
they're what?
I think therefore I am.
I am.
Like I think therefore I am,
Oh yeah, yeah, right.
right?
What? Who was that? Uh, one of the philosophers. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. But even the thoughts, it's like
right.
the thought. This is I listen to Muji all the time. He's some guru guy off in the distance, and he says like everything is observed, like, and then you observe the observer, and then try and back up from that, and then try and back up from that, and you never ever find. If you want to find what your inner self is, that's that one thing that you can never find. It's literally what is there, and there's nothing to do with it. It's that last
Yeah,
piece that's like can't be assailed. It can't be assaulted. So that's like your final safety zone, I guess. Because your body
yeah,
can be torn to shit. It can be raped. It can be tortured. It can be whatever can happen to it. There has to be like a place for the beings that is actually safe.
yeah, yeah. A place that you can go to where you're not the body
It's
or the body's
it's
experience. But that's
unassailable.
the trap. The trap is that people get locked in their experiences and feel that their experiences are actually what they are, but they're not.
Right.
It's just,
And this
I mean,
also is what that's the paralyzing agent that makes people unable to be creative. They're unable to remember that they are literally here to be free, like to make something
yeah,
amazing that has never been seen before. Because we've been doing this dance forever and ever, you know.
Yeah, but have we created something that hasn't been seen before?
I don't know. Uh, we're always attempting to do that. I feel like in whatever incarnation you're in, you're always attempting to create this thing that's hasn't been seen yet because you want to be creative, you know. But then you have all these other things that are assailing you all the time, so it creates a challenge.
Do you remember your past lives?
No,
Do you remember any of them?
nope.
Do you have a feeling of what they would be? Have you felt like you were a monk? Um, have you felt like you were, on top of a mountain monastery that was untouchable by anybody? Because sometimes I get that image with you, that you were one of these, monks that lived in these places that are impossible. They built them on top of literal mountains where you can't even access them. And
I I think when I came in contact with this thing that wanted to do things I didn't like, I decided that I was going to reduce to the present purely and trust. Like, that's trust in God, basically. You're
yeah,
reducing to the pure present and releasing all the memories. And actually, that's relieving your burden. You know, that's like what Jesus says is basically you're letting go of the burdens. You're becoming nothing, but you're also body is still
yeah,
here, everything's still working fine, but you're not having all this mental baggage that trails out for eons behind
no,
you.
no. But I get that image with you because I think that's when you were doing that as well.
I did do that. I mean, I have done that. I'm just not doing that now. I mean, not. It's like I can go in either way now. I can either do this and engage in the storyline, or I can not be it at all, and either is fine.
Yeah, either is fun, but ultimately one is probably more relevant in terms of not being neutralized.
Simply having no motion, I would say, is my natural state. Zero motion whatsoever. That's
Really?
yeah.
You mean motion or emotion?
Just like that stillness that is described by everybody, that
Yeah,
that is there, that is underlying and holding everything.
yeah,
That's where I normally reside. But it's like it's not necessitated. I can jump and dance and
yeah,
stuff. It's totally fine. Like either that's why I say either way is fine. It's
yeah,
the freedom is there to be in matter and to also be completely free within the construct, because we have this idea that's like I need to escape 3D because life sucks, you know. We have this idea, a lot of us.
yeah. No,
You don't
no.
have
This
to
is
do
where,
that. You don't have to do that.
yeah. Well, this whole idea that once you're in a manifested form, so once you have matter, this is where everything that you are is. It's expressing itself through that point. So wishing to not be there is wishing yourself to not be.
Right.
So,
That's still going back to the personality thing or not, though.
well, I mean, if we didn't need to express ourselves through this medium, we wouldn't be here, but clearly this is how we're choosing to do it.
I think if you like find yourself in a body, just be in the body. You know, do something with the body. I feel like it's simpler than a lot of times we make it out to be. But you're free to do all of these things or not. Like it's not so this or that way. It's freedom. It's freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, a most difficult challenge
Yes.
in this construct.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult, and especially when you lose sort of the outer, like when this personality starts flaking off, because it starts flaking off at some point, and then it's harder to relate to other people because they're firmly enmeshed within the personality system. And then it's like, no, it's like I don't care that much whether it's this or that way. I like just dancing and moving weird or something, like so long as you take the force out of it, where it's like if you do this certain motion, I'm gonna chop your arm or something. If you take that out, then there isn't a person or anything saying it must be this way. Like that's the nature of the reality, is that it's just eternal exploration.
Yeah.
That's what we're kind of moving away from in the new sort of, what's hopefully something new, is we're moving away from this forcing. The forcing thing is just gross. It's just ugly.
Yeah. Well, I think the forcing thing is almost, we have had to create such a field of resistance within ourselves to make it so painfully obvious of what needs to be done or escaped.
Yeah.
Escaped is probably, I mean, not exactly the best word, but again, right? Somehow we have to do the opposite in order for us to get the memo.
Yeah. It's a lot of exploring. It's because mind is endless. That's something that you have to realize. It's endless. It's not having an end. Okay, you can, in your present moment with your own body right now, you can sit there and try to grasp what it actually is, and you never ever find it. That was one of the things I had to become terrified of when I had weed happen the first time, because I literally found that out. I was like, it's absolutely endless. There's not logic to it necessarily. It's just, it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So I was forced myself to find that place that wasn't fucking moving all the time. You know, like that's that inner peace that I myself found, and now I have the option to go into this maze, this physical maze. It is a maze because it's the present moment versus like projecting into the past and the future, and it's still not even real. It's like a digital thing or something. It's not whatever real means. You know, like it's endless. You need that stillness. You need to have the stillness that you can go back to. That's what I need.
Yeah, well, I think everybody needs that still point, because that is the point of reference, regardless of what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the other thing is too, there's something extremely unnatural with what's happened with the aging process and what's happened with the acceptance of death and disease, and all of these things are unnatural to us.
Yeah.
So when you look at somebody's life and you think, and how many times have we known people who we have watched who are vibrant and they have a short lifespan, and it doesn't seem natural because they're just starting to figure things out. Right. And it's
we have an aphorism for that called the good die young.
Yeah, the good do die young.
We have like these cliches they're like ironically and sadly true at the same time. Like but we still explain away the phenomenon with those, you know?
Yeah, but it's not natural.
No.
It's part of also, you know, there's a relationship between what we are, and we know it's unlimited, just like the mind is endless. We have a body that has matter that houses the endlessness, but we don't make the connection between the two, because it should be as above, so below. It should be that we are able to incorporate what we are in that unlimited nature, in our genetics, in our DNA, in its natural blueprint, within the matter that we are, having the relationship we do with the spirit to body, and have an unlimited nature. Just like cells, you know, they by design regenerate. That's what they're meant to do. Completely regenerate themselves.
Yeah. It's
so
it's different.
Something's not right there. In terms of how many people have made the connection between the two, where they're actually utilizing that energy through their physicality, so that they're more in nature of what they are in that unlimited.
I feel like it's, if you're an unlimited being, you need challenge, basically. And I feel like we're just entered into the ultimate challenge. I feel like that's really what it is. Because at every second of your life, if you're having a decision or something, you can come up with endless musings about it and whether it's correct or not. And that's how I myself am built. It's difficult for me to make certain choices. I much rather go with the flow with whatever is kind of calling to me or pushing me away naturally, but sometimes I have to actually make a decision and be okay with that because it feels like the thing is like trailing off into infinity while I'm doing it. So it's not like this easy thing to do.
Yeah, it's true.
But
It's true.
at the same time, we can access that 0 point, that simplicity point that doesn't give a shit whether it's trailing off into infinity every decision, and it just says, look, you want to try something, try it. You're gonna be here whether or not something fucks up. Like, just do it. Explore.
Y- You know, you saying explore, because there's something, yeah, I always wondered, when you have all of these people, Richard Branson is somebody that comes to mind. Um, they have a lot of money, and they seem to be people that, quote, have the ability to explore literally the entire world. I think that's what I would be doing. If I could do that, I would
Yeah.
be the one exploring everything instead of just reading it online.
Right.
But yet, why, even on that level, why isn't that happening more and more?
That's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying it's the most difficult game ever. It's not. People think it's. People talk to me about manifesting things as if it's something simple. I have even helped people. Like someone has an idea. Say someone has an idea. Just a couple of words that are strung together, and I already know, based on what I've seen, it's actually making this thing happen and be sustainable is not easy. Not only that, but the person's idea of what they actually want changes over time as well. So we're just in like this mental. It's the cube, it's the mental constriction. But we're here because we're learning. Like we're in the crucible. We're in this little. We're getting ground up, literally. But it's not all bad. It's just like it's you're going through the crucible. You're going in the fire to become something better on the other side, or something different. Maybe not better, but we're just always changing. It's always changing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like beauty built into it. Like everybody sees that it's not just a shit show. It's also good.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's brilliant because we're breaking out of our own cubes. That's the design. I know when I was little, my dad had this friend, and he played piano brilliantly, but never learned how. And I was very curious when I was young, so I asked him, and I was really little, like maybe 7, 8. No, I was 8. Asked him how he learned to play like that. And he said to me, he actually said, I took it from a parallel life.
Really?
No kidding. And I was like, whoa. He said I didn't know anything about playing a piano, but I always somehow could feel it because of the parallel life. He was very in tune, obviously. So he said I just took it from the parallel life. And he actually explained how he did it.
And this was just natural for him, just like, oh yeah.
And this was natural for him.
Yeah.
And he said, in fact, he did it with a bunch of other things that he was brilliant at doing. He just took it from his parallel lives.
That's
because he said they're all there.
That's a good
You've
point.
already done everything.
That's a really good point. I feel like that's a good point because ego self, right, that tries to establish itself and maintain grip on your life. All of the magical things, they are literally already there. Like God, if you want to call it God, is everything. Okay, you're not creating anything. You're, if anything, learning how to like dance within the construct. And if you learn how to open yourself up to that stuff, that's when brilliant things happen. You're not ever creating anything like this. When I say you, I mean like this ego mind construct.
Yeah.
Never create it. You're only making pain for yourself. That's all that's ever happened.
Yes. Yeah, it's true.
And we all know that. Like, I know that too. But at the same time, here I am back in it. Like, it still happens. I can't just snap it off like a light switch or something. But I can become more aware of it and realize that where the source of these things are is not like, it's not ego mind. It doesn't do that.
No. And then the question of emotions.
Yeah. Emotions are huge. Like, I made a video on emotions just like a week ago.
Did you?
Yeah. just on like emotions are, they're the subtleties of your body. Mind is infinite, but it still is. It's almost, mind is almost that stillness I'm talking about. That's how quiet it is. So like when you're sitting here mentalizing things, you might as well be, in the void or something, because it's that quiet. You have to get in the emotions because they're like rumbling around your body and things, and they're giving meaning to what's happening. The very very subtle, very small movements in your body.
Yeah, and how many of the emotions though are not yours?
Emotions are people try to manipulate those. I mean, beings. That's why, like in our society, it's we have this idea like guys shouldn't show emotion. We have all these ideas around emotion, and I feel like that's still even a defense mechanism because we've been so fucked with. We've been so manipulated via the emotions, but they're still very important. Like they make us alive. You can't just be a mind.
No, you can't. But you have to distinguish between what's yours and what isn't yours.
And be firm about, like, if somebody's tinkering or something, say no. Just say no, thank you. Like, you're always free to say that.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to come and manipulate it and you feel it because your whole body feels like shit or it feels bad or feels squirmy or something, like it's easy to tell.
Yeah, you feel invaded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or like the invasion is attempting to invade.
Right. It's very apparent, like you hear a train coming or something. Basically, it approaches, and then it's like knocking at the door, and then you have to say no, thank you. Like no, go away. Don't want this.
Yeah, which are boundaries.
Yeah.
Which are massively important. I mean,
you have to learn all of this though. You're on your own, or like the way that the society was built, kind of like separating us all out from each other, like. Even in our own families, like we're not taught this really. We're not taught these sort of. That's why it's the hugest challenge ever, because we're brought up in here and given nothing. There's just nothing whatsoever.
I know. Literally.
Right.
And in fact, if anything, it's a handicapped kind of way of being raised, because whatever tools you could have had are taken away.
Yeah.
And you're given these false tools that cripple you if you let them.
Right. It's like this. There was a story. I forgot who it was. It's probably Vonnegut, because Vonnegut's excellent. But it was about these people in this particular society. Everybody's has, some are stronger, some are weaker, right? So on the strong people, they put all like literal weights on them, and they would like carry around these weights, and they were trying to even out like the differences of the people. And I was like, that's like kind of what we have here. We're trying to even everything out. Society says like everybody's equal. Everybody's not equal. Everybody's different. Let who's good at something do that, and then leave them alone. Like don't force them to do something else that they're not good at.
I totally agree.
But we have all the games that go on in politics and liberalism and all the pretense nonsense that doesn't. It makes it more difficult for that to happen.
Yeah, and then we got something like democracy, which hides the fact that everyone is enslaved within an enslaved system that uses democracy as the illusion of freedom.
Yeah. And it's held together by patriotism and pitting one group against another group and all these things. They've been going on forever. But everyone's not equal. Like everybody doesn't think the same way I think, and a lot of the people probably think I'm insane because of how I think. But I don't feel like I'm insane, and I feel like there's a decent amount of people that would have a critical look at the society and say like, let's do something slightly different here. Let's.
So when you go out in a normal day and you're surrounded by people, I mean, I do this all the time. I watch, I study, perceive, I pick up whatever. And then if there's a ruffle of something unique, which I find intriguing or interesting, that's hidden in a nuance somewhere, that is there, but you wouldn't even perceive it unless you were you had the ability to even feel it.
Right.
But for the most part, it's kind of a washout.
Going out there.
I don't feel like a little bit.
Yeah, it is. It is. This to me, this also goes back to beings not being able to really control themselves. When the 3D starts changing up, I guess you could say, like when you start going to the other levels, some beings can't handle it and they freak out and they cause all kinds of chaos. So that's,
Yeah.
I feel like that's why there are a lot of very severe restrictions. Like everybody, like it's known what beings are gonna do what when this, like it's known on a quantum level, on a very, very high up, on a god level. It's known, and there are limitations
Yeah.
in place for those things. And as you
Yeah.
go through your life, like as I go through my life, these things are seen, and it's like he's ready for this, like he's not ready for that, and there are outside help. It's not you're. It's not just you. Like there's the whole thing is involved in everybody.
Yes. Yes. But I feel like there's most of the minds aren't really prepared.
No, they're
So
not. But you can't force them either. There's also that free
no.
will thing, like, and a lot of them aren't even capable of seeing what you're talking about. Like they can't even. Nothing happens at all.
No, I mean there could be glitches literally in the matrix in front of you, in the sun, in the sky, just in the way that the energy ripples through or whatever, but they can't. They don't want to see it. Even if they see it,
Well, because they
they
want to
could be
feel
looking at it
they
and
want to feel
seeing it.
safe. They want to feel safe. So it's like that's why I was saying before. Like it's tugging the first string of this ball of yarn, and most people are like, hold this thing together so hard. But
Right.
it's actually more freedom. Like getting out of the 3D, like super constricted. You're getting to better places. You're not getting to worse places. We are already at like the lowest place possible, like that consciousness can inhabit. It's the bottom. It's like a rock.
Yep.
Not to mention that
Well,
you don't have very many people around you that you can relate with. So it's like you're lonely and feeling like a rock at the same time, but you still have to go do things. Like it's a weird sensation.
it's a weird sensation. Yeah. Although now more than ever, we're all finding one another and connecting. But
Yeah,
unfortunately, we're all spread all over the place, so there's no real cohesion wherever you live.
right.
These are connections that we're making from afar, and it's still not that I think isolation is totally a bad thing, because I think ultimately there's aspects of our own creation that if we don't get with that, that if we constantly feel that we need to be surrounded by people because otherwise we feel too alone, I don't think that's healthy on that aspect of it, because
No,
you
you have to come to terms with yourself without having other people. Like you have to come to terms with that, what that actually
yeah,
means, because really, like really, we're all the same thing. It's not even there aren't two people. There's one essence. So you have to come to terms with the fact that the people are a temporary thing, like the bodies are a temporary thing, and even be thankful. I go have gratitude for the fact that you're in a different place. Then even the unity, I'm sure, can get tiresome at some point. It's like then the universe
totally.
explodes. Now it's a billion people, billion things. Like, but there's always. I feel like no matter what happens, the it's cohesion, it's cohesive overall, even if it's super difficult,
Yeah.
and it works perfectly. Like the whole thing is what it is. It's God, like it's God mind. That's what we are. We're not different from that
No,
in every single aspect of it. And
totally.
you have freedom to go in, go out, experience the darkness, come back from it, get run over or whatever. And nobody's stopping anybody from reaching out and connecting. Like there's fear stuff. Yes, maybe entities don't want these connections to happen. They'll come interfere, but you still, if you want to do it, you can do it. There isn't someone actually going to stop you. If someone comes up and stops you, say, hey, I want to do it. Tell them, get out of my way. You know?
point do you think, or do you think that in your life you're going to be able to have the meta abilities manifest?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I already have that, but it's not like it's all subtle stuff. With me, it's all subtle stuff in how my life is arranging itself, and I wouldn't even know what meta abilities mean. Like I'm gonna go like shoot fire out of my hands or something. Like I don't know exactly what that would mean.
Well, let's just say, you wanna levitate. Uh, you wanna walk on water. You wanna start, a fire with your hand.
I feel like that state is not this 3D realm. That state is like the dream state, and it has to be protected. Like that state has to be protected from the fear mind. It has to be something different. I feel like I've
Than
done.
what we are right now.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
We're like little babies, like newborn, like infants or something, and we're
But I mean, some of us were born with those abilities here.
right. But then how do you figure out how to use them? Like,
Well, no, it's very terrifying.
yeah.
I mean, I can only speak about my experience, and it's absolutely mortifying.
Hmm.
Mortifying, because there is nobody who seems to know how to help you. So it's all rogue, and it's not controllable.
Right, right. I,
So
I don't feel like I've talked about this before. Like siddhis, Buddhism calls them siddhis. It's powers. It's like levitation. It's manifesting an apple right in front of your face. It's whatever. To me,
yeah,
that those things are not important. This realm, this physicality is not. We are inner. We're spirit. And it's like that's like a game. It's like here I'm gonna manifest a pear. Well, why'd you do that? Like, do you like is it fitting along with the rest of everything or not? That's how I would if I actually had these conscious like powers.
I think
I
it
would have
is
to
coming
align them.
but I think it is coming to a point where these two, quote, states of being are going to meet, because we're in transit right now of creating something different from where we are and
Yeah,
what we are.
right.
So
You know what I would do? I would like make an arena. I would say everyone who thinks they got powers, make a show out of it. Like, do you know how to use your power? Don't you know how to use your power? You're gonna burn everybody up. Like what are you gonna do exactly? Make a show out of it. Like make it a because the way you're kind of describing with you, I feel like you probably feel some shame about it. Like you feel like you're weird or like you don't know how to control it necessarily. It has to be something, whatever realm you're in, has to be like accepted somehow.
you know I was scared of it. I'm not ashamed of it at all, but I was really afraid of it because I did hurt people like a couple times, not knowing what I what was happening. It things happened. I destroyed. I blew things up at times because of the kinetic. Like it's just explosive. I but nobody could explain to me what was going on. Nobody could help me. If I would have had one person who stepped in to guide me as a kid, then maybe my terror would have subsided and I would have not been afraid to maybe learn how to work with it. But
Think of it like
it was kind of the
Hogwarts. It's Hogwarts, really. You're not in Hogwarts. You're supposed to be in Hogwarts where you're with other kids that know how to do these things also. It's
right. Like there was no other kids, right?
yeah,
It was
right.
just
That's also part of the difficulty though. That's part of the difficulty is we are all brought here with we have powers. Like I have certain specific skill set. You do too, but we're all scattered over the landscape and we're not around anybody else that's like us. Mine's more mental. Like I'm a more of a mental I can take anything and put it into words very easily, but there aren't other people around me very much that even understand what I'm doing, like when I'm speaking. So it's like, you know,
how is that possible? How is that? You're not speaking. I mean, I suppose, this is normal for us, but how is it like, what kind of reactions are you getting?
People wouldn't even understand what I was saying. Like there'd be no, just like nothing. It's like, okay, there is when I'm talking to somebody, it has to be reciprocal. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
interacting with a being, not like flapping my, like Aurora would like to say, like flapping my moving mouth parts at somebody else. That's not just what I'm doing. Like there's something else going on there. And then you willingly like link up with me and start having the conversation, and it's reciprocal. It's give and take energy. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with like, it's a different kind of language. I don't even know how to describe it. It's nothing like regular whatever it was that I said when I was younger, and nothing to do with what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly what it is. I just know that I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a great divide, you know? There's a very great divide, and it has a lot to do with now the energies that are coming in, they have a lot to do with what we've already decided
Mm-hmm.
on either polarity, on either side of what we choose and what we're choosing. So, and this is like another veil that is making it even harder in some ways, connecting with people in different ways that I never really saw some things that I'm seeing now in the way that I'm seeing it years ago,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird. You know, years ago I could be more open with just general people if I met them.
Right. Right.
But now it seems that there's a greater veil in this like divide between that line in the sand.
It's because they're like the people are on a one-dimensional level. They're one dimension. It's like be born, have a family, die. That's literally the whole mental landscape. And outside of that, I'm not in that. That's like a minutia in there, but it's not. You know, it's like it's infinity. I'm in infinity. Like It's in everything. It's not there isn't a. And that's where most people are at. Is they're just like going along on the train track that goes along and it goes along, it goes in circles and it goes in circles, and I just sit there and watch it because like it's not bothering me so much, but I can't really talk with them very much because
No, but
they're
it
doing one
feels
dimensional.
surreal. It does. It feels like it's surreal. And you know when there's a game called Spore.
Spore?
Spore.
What?
Yeah, it's called Spore.
Okay.
And you start out as a one-celled amoeba,
Nice.
and you have to survive as a one-celled amoeba. Okay, through an ocean of all these other amoebas who are growing, and maybe you're going to encounter those that have two cells, and you got to not be eaten,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
that you can make it to be a two-celled, and then you get to be a
But you're
three-celled,
trying
and
to
then you
go
get to,
gobble up other amoebas?
and then eventually, yeah, you get to be a sea creature, or a land animal, and you go through these evolutionary stages
Hmm.
all the way until you become an astronaut. Well, astronaut, you know what I mean. You get to become a space explorer, an explorer of literal space,
Nice.
um, and you get to create all these communities of like-minded people, and you get to fight other. It's pretty much like life
Mm.
here, right? I have to. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of like that. I mean, we go around in a mass like useless stuff and carry it around.
yeah, and you try to communicate with those that you don't know to create a community. So you have to do things that appeal to them. And this is how the game works, actually, because you have to be attractive on whatever level, whether it's that you can collect a lot of herbs
Mm-hmm.
for the community, or whatever your edge is that makes you.
Yeah, you got to be skilled. See, like the society isn't a big. I don't think like it's a big problem. It's just that we've been forcing people to do things that isn't within their skill set. That's kind of what the money thing has ground everybody down, and it's like you go do that. And I can tell you from my personal experience, it is not easy for me to do something that isn't degrading my soul that earns money. It's not easy. I still struggle with that. Very difficult. And things like I want to do, like I want to do Reiki, I want to do energy work, healing. That's what my power is, right? Part of it. Uh, that doesn't pay. Like the society at large doesn't see that that's valuable.
Yeah.
It's there. Like you can make a little bit of money with it. You can. But then even the society, even the people will come in and get traumatized because they become aware of an energy body that they didn't even know they had in the first place. So they don't even know. It's, you know, it's not easy. It's not easy to figure out the money situation. If you're
No.
if you're an aware being, it's not. It's difficult.
No. But as aware beings, the more that we create community together, the more we are going to be creating communities that are self-reliant and off-grid more.
Yeah.
We're going to be using our skills as a community to create a community where we don't have to live under the structure that takes our power away
Mm-hmm.
and makes us do things that don't align with our true being,
Right. Right.
even in this experience. Because I don't know who wants to do something for a living just for a paycheck when you don't align to it.
Right.
Nobody.
I think that it's common. Everybody wants a community. Okay, I've talked about community a lot and the lack thereof that we're born into.
Lack.
It's not a community. If anything, you have like this idea. And my sort of local nuclear family is still a community for me.
Yeah.
But as far as being in the outer society, to me it's just drones and robots, like for the most part. And I was in it for a really long time. I was this is not something that I just came up with. I was in it. I didn't like it. Like I didn't talk. I didn't have anything to say. Like they didn't respond to me.
Mm-mm.
So like they're
But I don't think that those communities are really going to surface until something happens that is significant enough to really affect people's lives so that they will make changes that are beneficial.
I mean, I
Because
guess
the
that's why the
nature,
disasters are built into the system. We have
well,
natural.
nobody wants to change anything if I mean they can just keep going the way it's going. Really, very few people step up to the plate and change and make changes that are of that caliber without something coming in and causing it to happen in a through some adverse.
Doesn't have to be at first.
No, but I'm saying, and it's nature that it keeps happening in that way, because by free will it just seems that the law of laziness is and complacency and habit. It just People don't make the changes. Look, people don't even make changes in their diet if they don't. I mean, it takes a lot for somebody to go, whoa,
Right.
maybe I have to change this.
You know what it
Just
is?
even on that level.
You know what? What I the main problem is that being that you are connected with everything else, if you actually make a change, you're whipping the universe like a rope or something. If you're making an actual change, you can allow it to remain mental, and that's what most people do because they don't want to whip the universe like a rope. They want to keep this idea inside, and they don't want to see that they're actually powerful enough to do something out there. I feel like
Totally.
that's the main reason why we don't see that enough.
Totally.
If
Or
you
even
make a
just,
change, you actually make a change, okay? You actually create a community. You're
yes,
changing the whole world. You're changing the whole landscape. And people
totally.
people like Osho, the guru who created this thing in Oregon, you know, everyone the locals rejected them like a disease or something. These people were there dancing and singing and meditating all day, and the locals rejected them like a disease. He made a change though.
Yeah. Is that the one that they did a Netflix show on him?
Yeah, yeah. I watched a
Okay.
little bit of it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. So what was it that he did? Who is he? I don't even know who he
He's
is.
he's he's a he's a guru. He's like an enlightened guy.
Okay.
So his story was when he was really young, as a little boy, he went off into the void, just out of the blue. Nobody knew why. He went off, eons and eons floating around in the void, like figuring everything out. He didn't, I don't think, he had any control over it. But when he came back to his body, like he was enlightened. He didn't even speak for 3 years or something after he came back. But then he started speaking and he started like teaching because he's talking from this place that isn't egoified anymore. It's like purity that's speaking. So he's bringing this new energy into the and he's also controversial, but he's controversial because he knows that he can be. Like, once you realize you're this being, you can do whatever, you know? But he had this following, and his followers loved him. Like, he's the life for them. They bought him like 80 Rolls Royces or something while he was in India. And he eventually was like, all right, well, something was happening in India where his they weren't like received well enough, their commune. So he's like, well, he told his assistant, like, go find where we're gonna live. And so she went and found Oregon, and they had to move this whole city basically to Oregon. To Oregon, they moved the whole city. And there's a
Wow.
it's a huge story, and it was also bad stuff too. It wasn't just all enlightenment stuff. It was like bad shit happened. They brought homeless people in, and then the homeless people didn't get along very well. They kicked them all out, and it was like all there was some like poisoning thing that happened. There was good and bad, but he was bringing a new flavor into the realm.
Yeah.
To me, that was important. It's so like, and that's also why it's difficult. And I've thought about me creating a commune type thing, but I know that it's not easy. So it's not like I'm just all right, call everybody up, like, let's create this thing. It's not exactly like that. You have to like ease into it. Like, even us having this discussion is another aspect that's moving towards something like that possibility happening.
Yeah.
And but it has to be that people realize that we are all like, we're not enemies here. Like, there isn't an enemy. That was all false created bullshit for energy harvesting. It has nothing to do with how people actually treat each other. Look outside. How many times do you see people being mean to each other? No, it doesn't happen. Very rarely. It's all it's all manufactured bullshit.
Yeah. Completely. Absolutely.
So that's my template, my inner template for when this thing can maybe come about eventually. And we need it. Like, people need to have a place that has like minds. That you're not forced to have a stupid belief system, this or that. All these things that we've had, where you're just free from that. You're free to create, what even work with the current structure system and not try and like destroy it necessarily. We gotta work within it anyway until it's actually gone.
Well, and the other thing is, it can be as simple as trying to get the real information about little things like, how is your food grown? Where is it grown? What's the process that they require? Do you realize that the way that they're utilizing land is actually going against nature, and it's causing a lot of death in all of the species? So
It is. It certainly is. I was having this conversation with my dad the other day. I was like, what happens when you abandon a structure that man has made? Does nature come and build another couple stories on top? No. Nature comes and tears that shit down,
Yep.
If you want to know if what you're doing is good or not, what does nature do with it when you leave it alone?
Yeah, well, that's just it. There's I don't remember what. There was a couple, they bought a lot of land and they decided to revert to nature and let nature do its thing to grow food and to house whatever nature had. Cows included, ducks, all of it. But they let it be. The one woman was passionate about learning how to grow food when she realized that what the industry is doing is they're taking bone and death of animals and they're putting that in the ground in order to create a fertile soil so that they can grow vegetables, so that vegans and vegetarians can say I'm a vegan and vegetarian, but really it comes from the soil, from dead animals. See, these are all the things that are happening that if you don't do the research, you're not going to know what's really even how your vegetables are grown for the most part. So she was mortified.
Yeah.
And she was like, this can't be right. I mean, there's got to be a natural way to just work with nature the way nature's been doing it from the beginning. Which there is.
Yeah. And it's there aren't problems. Like, if you go out into the wilderness and sit with nature and find out how many problems are sitting there with you, aside from what you keep in your head, once those go away, how many problems? Like, the trees are getting along with the birds, are getting along with the bees, are getting along with the rivers, are getting along with the clouds. Very simple. We bring all these problems in.
Totally. So I mean, it can be as simple as just finding out the simple things that are incorporated in your, I hate saying incorporated because it's corp, like death,
Yeah.
but that are inclusive.
You're orating the corpse into existence.
Yeah, right. In your daily choices of the choices that you make every day. Well, break it down. Find out what you need to know about what what is important with regards to all of your daily choices. Start making changes there.
Hmm.
Baby steps.
But people need community. Then I need community. We've been
Well, I
without it
mean,
for a really long
yes,
time.
we all need community,
It's just
but not the way a community is. Well, there is no community right now. This
no.
is
There's boxes where people watch TVs, and that's all that's going on.
yeah,
There are some places where
warehousing. It's warehousing.
yeah, there are some
It's
places where it
just
happens, but this also spreads. So like if you can create something that doesn't become deemed as a cult and get ousted by the local government, which is of course going to be an issue. So be aware of that. Anyone that's trying to make a natural community, you will have opposition, but it will spread. So like if you're doing something good and people are getting along there, then that will spread out naturally.
yeah, naturally.
People will get called to your community. Other people will start modeling their own communities after what you're doing.
Yeah, but you need to have a basis in how you can even start.
Right. Well, how you start is you get like minds together and find money, and that's how you start. And then just start doing it. Where do you want to have a community?
Yeah, yeah. What happened to that guru guy that you were talking about?
He passed away at some point naturally. Like nobody murdered him or anything, but they that group got kicked out of Oregon at some point,
Oh,
and it was a big state high like the what's the state lawyer called attorney general.
got involved.
Yeah, like from New
Wow.
York or something like it, and it was that this man had power, okay, and the powers that are heading political stuff is all fake, or mainly fake nonsense. So like the powers that be that are under the scenes see this man that why is everyone paying attention to him and buying him 300 Rolls Royces? He has power. Whether you call him a guru or not, that man had power inside of himself, and he was affecting change. That's also the danger in doing this is like someone's gonna say, hey, this guy's got power, this girl's got power, like let's come fuck him up, like I don't like what they're
Yeah.
doing. That's also a danger. So I think moving quietly is
Yeah.
kind of key to help that not happen. We're not in the witch burning days so much anymore, but still, like, there will be opposition still.
Well, anthroposophy, the anthropomorphism society, um, they have small communities all over the place that are quiet, and they essentially have created their own, for the most part. Yeah, they're very self-sustaining.
Huh. Anthropophacy?
Oh my God,
I know the
it's
word.
theosophy. It's theosophy. It's
Madame Blavatsky.
philosophical. What's his name? Yeah, they have a whole. They've got lots of. They just call them farms, but they're small communities where they're self-sustaining,
Hmm.
and they're pretty quiet. They're still quiet, but they're pretty much everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there are
wasn't
a lot of.
aware of this. I read a little bit
Hmm.
of Blavatsky and into theosophy when I was back in the day, but I didn't. I got turned off to every single group that I ever saw that got created because I saw they all got corrupted. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that. No.
Yeah, well, exactly. Although, I mean, I do, not that they're, I don't really, I'm not sure what they study or what they continue to research anymore, but I know that they have these farming communities and they help a lot of people with disabilities.
Hmm.
So, what, you know, it's, I have visited a few. So they run a very integrated, small community. Um, yeah, self-sustaining. You learn how to basically do everything.
Yeah, I I, I think building the community with it being open to public and like regular people
Yeah,
would be because we need money from somewhere, and money doesn't come from aware people, it comes from somewhere else.
yeah,
So you would need to have some, I would say, like have a garden, a community garden, have bill it as unplug for a week, like for
yeah,
executives or whatever. They could come and do their thing, and then everyone else who's simply living there would simply be living there.
yeah.
And these people that are living their lives plugged into the matrix and never see anything natural, this would be their opportunity to come unwind a bit, and that would also fund the community.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
And it would also it wouldn't arouse suspicion as like what the fuck are these guys doing, like no, it's a place to unwind. Simple.
Well, with that guru that you're talking about, did they kick them all out?
Yeah, the whole community was disbanded.
Like all of them? Just go back to where?
I don't.
India?
I didn't finish the. I didn't finish the documentary, but I know they dismantled the whole. It was a city. It was like 300 or 400 people. Like it was a lot of people there. They had an airport. They they had. They made a city with an airport.
Really?
Yeah.
And then the guy just died of, like, he just died of old age?
Yeah, he died when he was like 70 or 80 or something. I don't remember how old. Osho is great though. Like Osho is, he's packed full of wisdom. A lot of what I say comes from Osho. Not all of what I say, but I do borrow from these masters, Muji, Adyashanti, uh, Babaji, Ramana Maharshi. There's a whole bunch of them. They're wise people that have lived. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
like what we're discussing has been around the whole time. It's always been isolated and not accessible.
Yeah, although some of us have had to be birthed through the Western Gate because, you know, if you're raised in societies like India, I just feel that there's more of an acceptance for that. There's more of a, if that is what you are, the same with Tibet and all of these places in the
Yeah,
East.
yeah, yeah.
There's a place for that.
There's more
In the
acceptance.
West, very difficult. I mean, it's been years of people coming in and just laying the groundwork,
Yeah,
just to start getting, yeah,
right.
an awareness. I mean, even if you think of organic food versus the refined garbage, it's taken a long time to get people in that awareness.
Hmm.
Just on that alone.
And another thing is that people, even when they have the option, a lot of them are just like, well, I've done this forever. It's like they think bottled water is somehow better than drinking from a stream or something. And now there's
Yeah.
10,000 bottled water brands. And it's like, what? This system needs conscious maintenance, and it hasn't had it for a really long
No, no. And then there is, have you ever heard of bottled air?
time. That one movie, they put that idea out in a movie where the guy actually bottled air and was selling it.
It's true. It's actually true.
I know there's oxygen bars. Is that what you're talking about?
No, no, it's bottled air.
You can buy bottled air.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, there's a place, there's a business in Calgary. They make it and they export it to India and to China, to various parts of the world that have very severe problems because they don't have pure air. With, yeah, I don't know if you've ever done any research on this, but there's a market and it's a real thing, bottled
Wow.
air.
So the air is bad because of like natural contaminants, or it's bad because the people did it?
No, it's industrial.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You should
Huh.
just do research on it. It's pretty, oh my God, it's a nightmare. And people buy it. And they buy it. It's, yeah, it's packaged as pure, fresh mountain air.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the strategy. Is like, I've said this many times, but like, the company hammers you on the head and then sells you an aspirin like the next step over. It's like that's how it works. Is they're the same things that are making the bad parts are also supplying the so-called cure to them. But what we are supposed to be doing is outside of both of those things, outside of the hammer and outside of the aspirin that they're trying to sell you.
Yeah, totally. These are the steps.
It's baby steps.
It's baby steps.
It is baby steps. Even the idea that somebody can really truly from their heart speak what they're feeling about the place they live in. Okay, even that idea has been taboo for the longest time. So even that we can get out here on the tubes and talk about this in natural ways, that wasn't even allowed before.
No.
So it's baby steps.
Yeah. So let's hope they won't censor and continue to censor.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta accept some of that. I feel like that's also mental. I feel like I mentally manage my channel, and then like if people come in and start talking shit or whatever, like I can like mentally move the thing into a new realm.
Yeah, I mean you can. You know, there's many layers going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? So, but you can't sort of skip certain layers either.
Right. Some of the imposing control structure is gonna be there no matter what you do.
Yeah.
The people that think, oh, I can just manifest. You can't just manifest things. There has to be a structure for you to even know you exist in the first place, and you did not manifest that. Okay, like you have to play by the rules, otherwise this shit can go really bad. I tell you, it can go really bad when you start fucking with the rules and doing tinkering.
But that's just it, Gary. They know the rules, okay, and it's by design that they don't really want anybody here knowing the rules.
So long as we're operating within our own moral compass, these meanies over here can't do anything really.
Right, but it's up to us to learn the rules of the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's our responsibility.
Right. That's what we're doing. There's a lot of rules. Well, there aren't a lot of rules. There is, to me, it's just a simple, it's be nice to other people. Period.
Yeah.
Get mad, fine. You know, get over it. Like, say sorry. It's the Jesus thing. It's very simple. That's the simplicity of it. You can play within the construct and not be in hell, basically, if you do that. Be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all the complexity doesn't run away from you. It's still there. It's available. Like you can go dive into that mindscape if you want.
Yeah, being at 0 point is really good because when you get into a situation where because you can't just be nice to everybody because sometimes people
not necessarily nice. It's the neutral.
I mean, but I know what you mean. Okay, just do unto others as you want them to do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody oversteps their boundary and they try to harm you, and you can't stay neutral.
You can defend. Like if somebody attacks me,
sure, she can defend.
Yeah, you can. But all the blessings, the help from the above comes when you decide internally that you want to work in harmony with the situation. Whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter what you call it. Everyone's been hung up on religious bullshit because there's so much traumatic dogma out there, But
yes.
God is simply the force, the life force. He's the key. He's the energy, or she, or whatever. Doesn't matter.
She.
Alan Watts said God is black. She's black.
Wow, everything, right?
Yeah. I mean that's outer space, right?
Yeah, that's the void. It's black. It's not white.
Nope. Somebody described it as like a shimmering black, like their experience of the void is like shimmery, alive black. It's not just nothingness.
Well, I think there's more than one void.
Yeah, you talked about like a false void, right?
Hmm.
An imposter
Hmm.
void. I feel like with
Yeah.
whatever there is, there's always the opposite, like the bad
There's
part.
always, yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, this is why it's a house of mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's always an imposter. There's always a counterfeit. There's always like something that's trying to override the, real
Right.
and the genuine, the original. There's always something stepping in.
Yep. That's what makes it interesting, I guess. Because it's not like
Yeah.
that. Sometimes we downplay the. These things are very real. They're very dangerous as well. At the same, like, you don't just think, oh, I can just fluff it all away. No, it's you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
You need protection. We all need protection. You don't just want to go out there and like open up your whole to everything. Stuff is real. It's
No.
dangerous. It's bad.
No, you don't want to ever do that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, no.
Don't get arrogant and think like I am just this. You have to operate within this moral compass that actually keeps you safe. It keeps you protected.
And you need to be able to step into your authority
Mm-hmm.
of what you are and know that.
Yeah.
As soon as you know that, they become powerless.
And there's not a process that you need to go do. It seeps out of everything that you're doing and saying. You don't need to declare yourself.
Just is.
Yeah, it is what it is,
Yeah.
and the people know that. Like who you talk to knows that.
Hmm.
It's just an internal remembering that. Yeah, okay, this is what it is.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, I think it's the show is. How long have we been talking?
I don't even know. I don't know what time it is.
Didn't you
Dinner
say you
time.
had something to do at 6:30?
Yes, dinner.
It's 6:36.
That's
I feel like that
right
wasn't that
up.
was a couple hours or something, 2.5 hours. I don't know. I don't have any sense of
Yeah.
time.
I don't have sense of time. I'm not the one to ask the time either. But yeah, all I know is if I get hungry or if I have to go to the bathroom.
Well, you have to remember time for school, right?
Well, that I have to, but I have an alarm clock for that.
Okay.
It's too bad that the alarm clock doesn't have like a thing that bangs my head, because
Okay, there are two alarm clocks. There's one the bed can kick you out, like catapult you, and then there's also like an alarm clock that jumps off of your thing and runs away from you while it's ringing. So you have to jump yourself out of bed.
Really?
Yeah, you should get one of those.
Oh my God. And there's not one that electrocutes you, right?
I mean, we could work on that. If that's your thing.
Yeah. School, morning.
I hated those alarm clocks. They were so invasive. My dad, when he'd wake me up in the morning, he would grab the ankle and like shake me, and I'd get pissed off and try to like scurry away from him. And then when I never woke up when he did that, so eventually he would come and like rip all the blankets off, and I would just be freezing. I was like, all right, time to get up.
So you like sleeping?
I do.
Yeah.
When it's not full of nightmares, which I have
Yeah.
accomplished relatively recently. Not always full of nightmares.
No, but ever since 2009, it's been a lot of nightmare hacking
Yeah.
for everyone. Mm-hmm.
You have to defend
I'm
your
not going
mind.
to say everyone, but
Gotta
yeah,
defend your mind.
2009, it's been, that's kind of a...
Didn't Og say
It's
something
real.
about there being like 7 layers to the mind, like, and invaders are trying to? There's like firewalls, like you can actually
Mhm.
walk inside someone's mind, and all these like, I know it's the mind is that's the doorway. It's the doorway to predicting what that person's gonna do.
Totally.
That's why
And
I emphasize silence, because you become unpredictable if you stay in that spot, and nobody can track you.
No, which I think is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant.
But you're still out there in the open,
Mm-hmm.
sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's a lot to be said for silence, and there's a lot to be said for knowing when to speak.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
This
I
is
mean,
true.
most of the time we don't have even the right words to speak anything that comes close to what's inside.
It's just that it's that plastic stuff that we were force fed, this plastic stuff. Once you get outside of the plastic, like I gotta be like this, look inside your own self, find out what's in there, and then give it out. You know, whatever it's gonna help somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. In spirit, though, not just blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, right, right.
Be led by spirit
Hmm.
because it'll prompt you and then you do it.
Yep. And it also feels right at the same time. Like you don't feel like you're doing something plastic anymore. You feel like you're doing
No.
something that's helpful
Yeah.
or meaningful.
Don't. Yeah. Enough with the nice programs. Be genuine.
Hmm.
Be yourself.
Yep. I mean, it's the opposite of consumerism. Consumerism says find something that's supposedly good and then repeat it a billion times for the good of God knows what. It's not for anybody, but that's
Hmm.
we're the opposite of that. Every single person and being,
Yeah.
absolutely unique, has a specific skill set to contribute to the whole. And if you've been in this consumer thing, this money thing, this fake stuff, you haven't been giving people what you can give them.
No. 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 It's tragic.
Yeah.
You cut yourself off from probably everything that you came in to do.
Oh, I want to show you before